forces. This is a measure that we had in this committee last term. We sent it to interim study, and Representative Mannion chaired that interim study. I believe, yeah, Representative Mannion chaired that interim study, and the recommendation from the interim study committee, which we adopted, was to revisit this bill, which is why we're here looking at HB 256 at this time. Representative Liberty is the prime sponsor. Representative Mannion, again, is a co-sponsor. So Representative Sabrin, welcome, and we're very much looking forward to having you introduce this measure, and so have at it.
Thank you, Chairman Moffett, members of the committee. I'm Representative Lauren D. Schwanier from Rockland District 30, Seabrook. We have members of the crew and your families here today to testify. I also have written testimony to submit from the family of David Edwin Lewis, one of the crew members of the USS Liberty, was from New Hampshire. He lived in Colebrook, passed away in 2021. He's been his entire life hoping to see an investigation of this incident. And upon listening to the crew that is here today, I think you'll understand a little bit more about what exactly we're discussing. Does anyone have any technical questions on the bill?
Questions on the language on the bill as presented, as we have in front of us? Representative Singh, no questions on the language at this time.
Awesome.
Okay, Representative Barton from Littleton, is he here? Yes, thank you, Representative Barton. We, as Representative Schwanier mentioned, we knew this last term. Go ahead, if I have your card. Yes, if you could go ahead and take a seat. Representative Barton from Littleton. We know there was a New Hampshire presence on that boat. I believe there were more than one, but most prominent was one of the senior officers who just passed away very recently, a couple of years ago, perhaps. So, welcome, Representative Barton.
Thank you.
What can you add to what we're looking at here?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to add, I support this piece of legislation. Recently, I watched a video on YouTube with an interview of a member of that particular crew who spoke about that incident during that interview, and he must be around 80 years old. There aren't too many survivors of this. He spoke that it was very hush-hush. They weren't allowed to speak about exactly what happened. He said that they didn't receive aid from our own ships neighboring by, and there seemed to be some kind of questionable activity that has gone really unanswered for the people who lost unnecessarily family members many years ago and by the IDF, and they never got the answers that they deserved from the Fed. So I think for our New Hampshire constituents, we owe them the decency and respect of a response to at least look into this and press our federal delegation to pursue this.
Thank you, Representative. Just a comment. I described the bill when I introduced it. What I want to do here is just clarify that the intent of this bill is to establish a committee to study the federal government's response to the 1967 attack on the USS Liberty. So the issue that this committee is going to have to make a decision on is whether we support a committee being established or not, and that's something that we're going to continue to take testimony, and we're going to talk about it. We'll eventually exec this and make a decision on that. I'm old enough to remember this incident. The captain of the USS Liberty won the Congressional Medal of Honor for keeping his ship afloat under a horrific attack. It's something that I remember I think I was 12 years old when that occurred. It was a very prominent news item at the time. I think it was in June of 1967. So my question for you is, looking at the membership of the proposed committee, should one be established, do you have any questions, or are you comfortable with the committee as proposed?
I didn't see proposed committee members for the subcommittee. I would like to be appointed to that committee based on knowledge in 16 years working with the DoD. I believe you're correct that there was significant amounts of heroism in saving that boat, because the IDF took out all of the radios on that boat, so they couldn't radio for help. And there was one radioman who rigged a line and squeaked out an SOS. And still that help was delayed, but they stayed afloat long enough that they eventually got assistance. So there's definitely a bunch of heroes on that boat, and they deserve answers. I don't think that it was an accident.
Well, and I know other committee members have things that we want to say, and that's really more appropriate for executive session. And we're here to listen to you and perhaps ask some questions. For the people watching at home, the proposed committee shall be as follows: 4 members of the House of Representatives appointed by the Speaker, 1 member of the Senate appointed by the President of the Senate, 1 member of the public appointed by the governor. So that would be a 6-person committee, and the members of the committee, their duties would be to study the federal government's response, specifically investigate to the best of its ability whether the U.S. government properly determined the culpability of Israeli civilian and military officials in that attack. So that's the proposal. Anything else for Representative Barton, who's not listed as a sponsor, but he is a supporter. Questions for Representative Mandelbaum?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to first say that I am empathetic toward the members of this crew and their families, and thank you for their heroism. What I would love a little bit more clarity around is what gap this committee would fill, because it seems to me like there was a fairly thorough investigation of this attack. The Israeli government has apologized for it and provided compensation to the U.S. government to give to the 34 men killed in the attack. Could you just clarify a little bit what you're looking to get out of this committee?
Yes, absolutely. So you're correct in all of your statements. What we don't have and what we never got was answers as to actually what happened. This committee could interview with surviving crew members who are getting much older, and we could get answers from interview all of them, and do the research to actually give a clear, concise, well-researched answer, not something that the federal government came up with to protect one of our allies. So that would be, I would expect the interest of this committee to get the real answers and actually get that out there. The real answers are deserved.
Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there haven't been any books or videos or any other material that use direct interviews from survivors?
I believe that there was a gag order, or the equivalent of a gag order, of all the crewmen. And now that they're getting close to dying, they don't care anymore, and they're willing to speak regardless of the consequences. So we may actually be able to get some real answers now as to what happened.
Another follow-up, Brad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if these service members are providing their testimony and breaking this gag order, would there be any potential consequences for the state of New Hampshire in this committee if we're asking them to do that?
I'm not an expert on those laws, but I suspect that they would be federal orders, and not under the purview of the state of New Hampshire. It would be voluntary testimony at their own risk.
Okay, Representative Barton, I know you're going to be here to be you're the prime sponsor of HCR 8, which is coming later, okay?
Yes.
So I have 2 cards, so you're not a sponsor of the truth because you're speaking in support of the bill. Okay, got it. Anything else for, yes, Representative Foster?
I just had kind of a clarification on Representative Mandelbaum's question. So when I was reading up on the incident, I saw that there are many books and I think at least 1 documentary. So none of those interviewed survivors?
I haven't read every book, but what I am aware of is that there was an order for these crew members not to speak since right after the attack. Most of the crewmen kept that order. There have been some interviews where crew members are speaking out for the reasons that I said, but I think that it's an opportunity to get all surviving members of that ship to testify before a subcommittee and give us a very clear, concise story of what actually happened that we could put up as a state and that we could press the Fed on and say, hey, what you said happened didn't happen.
Representative Foster?
Yeah, a follow-up. So what's the expectation that this testimony from survivors would, what's the end goal, I suppose? What do you want the federal government to do after this committee?
I would expect that when we find the answers that we didn't get from the Fed that we deserved many years ago, that they would release information similar to some of the information that was released on the assassinations of RFK and Martin Luther King and JFK. I think probably some of the case stuff would be unsealed, and I think they would be more apt to do that in DC if we came and said, hey, we have the goods right here. We know most of the story that we didn't get from actual eyewitnesses. Tell us the rest of the story. I think it would be a good means to pressure. I think that's the intent of the prime sponsors putting this forward.
Representative Mandelbaum?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to clarify, the intent is to better understand the U.S. government's role in this situation. I guess I just back up for a moment. There has been a lot of criticism of Israel lately, just given the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East, and I'm a bit hesitant that this bill might be biased against our ally, or might be looking to seek further justice from them. Is this really just focused on the U.S. government's role?
I would expect it's not. I'm not the prime sponsor of this legislation. I speak in support of it. I support Israel, but in 1967 something happened, and it doesn't seem right, and we ought to have the real clear answers as to why there were specific attacks on our ship. I hope that the committee members are unbiased in their research and their information gathering, and that we get an unbiased report with clear facts.
Other questions? Representative Mannion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for taking my question. Just to piggyback on that, like, had this occurred and it was like Great Britain or Turkey or something fired on us, you'd still be in support of doing a full investigation. Doesn't matter which country did it.
Absolutely.
Good question. Anything else? See no hands. Thank you, Representative. I'm sorry, Representative Bennett. Sorry.
Thank you. I was just curious, how many people from New Hampshire were on that ship?
I don't recall the exact number. I'm sure you can find the crew list online, or it'll come up in the committee's research for sure. But I know that there were members of New Hampshire that crewed that boat.
As per earlier comment, the a gentleman from a naval commander from Littleton I think he was an intelligence officer or something like that. No, somebody's saying no. So, well, we'll get a good answer later. I know someone back there has an answer to that question about the New Hampshire presence on the boat. Anything else? Seeing no hands, thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Representative Wheeler is in the House. He's asked for 2 minutes. Welcome back, Representative Wheeler, representative from Peterborough, I believe.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Moffett, friends and colleagues on the House State and Federal Relations Committee. For the record, my name is Representative John Wheeler. I represent the towns of Peterborough and Sharon. To answer your question, there was a commander on the ship named Commander Lewis from Colebrook, and I'm here today, Mr. Chairman, to lend my support for this very important legislation. The men, the service people who are on that boat, have not been heard by the United States government for 58 years. There was a false investigation that happened, patsy investigation that the federal government held to lie about what happened on that boat. The official story the American people were given was that boat was attacked for 5 minutes by 1 torpedo and that an immediate apology was given. That could not be further from the truth. And there's people here who were on that boat who are going to testify to that, so I won't speak to that too much. But to me, Mr. Chairman, the state of New Hampshire has the opportunity here to stand strong in our transparent, open government that we take pride in, and open up the books in transparency and start the first genuine investigation into this issue that has occurred. Again, I'll let these men speak to it themselves, but what they went through on that boat is horrifying. As I was sitting back there listening to other people testify, I had to listen to them remember it. And they're remembering it right now as they sit here, as they have to come constantly to state after state, testifying, retelling their story, just to get heard by their government. These people served in one of the most dangerous times that this world has faced, maybe other than now. And here they are saying, the government lied about what we went through, and we're going to say, well, we won't even study it. We have a study committee here before us. This isn't legislation with a stick. This isn't doing anything other than saying that we're going to study the issue. However you might feel about the issue, I think you should look into it if you feel differently than angry that the government has lied about it. You should want a study committee because no answers have been given about this. So I'm 21 years old. I was far from alive in 1967. But I'm here today because I'm a student of history. I'm tired of the United States government lying to its people. And as a member of the state government of New Hampshire, who has sworn an oath to the United States Constitution, I feel it's my duty to speak up in favor of these men who served our nation and have been lied to by their leaders. So I don't really have anything other than that to say.
Do you take any questions?
I will take some questions.
I represent one.
But other people will speak more eloquently to this than I can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, I'm not doubting the veracity of the claims by the survivors who are here in this room today. I thank you for your service and appreciate you stepping forward on this matter. I'm just trying to get a sense of the whole situation here. And Representative Wheeler, you said twice that there was a false investigation that the federal government held.
Yep.
Apart from the testimony of these survivors, what evidence do you have that it was a false investigation?
It's my opinion, and they lied about the investigation. There's plenty of evidence. If you go back and listen and watch the testimony about the investigation, you read up on it, that investigation was just as bad as the Warren Commission was.
Other questions? Representative Gagny.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative, for taking my question. If you allow me, I'd like to read a short excerpt and ask the witness for his opinion on what I have here.
We do need a question, so if this leads to a question,
It would,
go ahead.
It would lead to this, hopefully. Okay, there was a commission set up by the government, by JAG, the Judge Advocate General. In June of 1967, I was assigned as a captain here. I was assigned as senior legal counsel for the Navy's Court of Inquiry to the brutal attack on USS Liberty, which had occurred in June 8th. The late Admiral Isaac Kidd, president of the court, and I were given only 1 week to gather evidence for the Navy's official investigation into the attack, despite the fact that we both had estimated that a proper court of inquiry into an attack of this magnitude would take at least 6 months to conduct. Now, I'm going to skip a whole bunch of stuff. It was our shared belief, based on the documentary evidence and testimony that we received firsthand, that the Israeli attack was planned and deliberate and could not possibly have been an accident. I continue, I'm skipping a whole bunch of stuff so I can get your comments. Admiral Kidd and I both felt it necessary to travel to Israel to interview the Israelis who took part in the attack. Admiral Kidd telephoned Admiral McCain to discuss making arrangements. Admiral McCain was the higher, he was the boss. Admiral Kidd later told me that Admiral McCain was adamant that we were not to travel to Israel or contact the Israelis concerning this matter. And I'm going to end here, I think. I know from personal conversations I had with Admiral Kidd that President Lyndon Johnson and Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, the DOD, ordered him to conclude that the attack was a case of mistaken identity, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Admiral Kidd told me after returning from Washington, D.C. that he had been ordered to sit down with 2 civilians from either the White House or the Defense Department and rewrite portions of the court hearing. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, the other one. I'm sorry, I apologize for the delay here, but this I feel is important because I was a sailor.
And there is a question coming.
There is absolutely a question coming. Admiral Kidd also told me that he had been ordered to put the lid on everything having to do with the attack on USS Liberty. We were never to speak of it, and we were to caution everyone else involved that they could never speak of it again. What say you on this matter?
I say that you know best, as a sailor yourself, a member of the Navy, that is what happened. And there is a number of information out there, a lot of information about Lyndon Johnson's attitude towards this attack and how he did not care about those soldiers who were being bombarded. It doesn't matter who the country that was bombarding them. You have you're the commander-in-chief. You have soldiers being bombarded. Your ship is being sunk. It does not matter who is shooting at you. You take action. And he, instead of taking action, took action to help rewrite court hearings. He took action, the commission took action to rush them. As was stated, the admiral said that he had 1 week to gather what he said he needed 6 months to gather. That's what I mean when I say false investigation. You have people in power who have a vested interest in not telling the truth, who are out there trying to say, oh, we'll study the issues, and then producing a report such as this. We have before us an opportunity to genuinely study this issue, to compile that information in an official state government commissioned committee that we have charged with the power that we have as legislators, and I think Representative Gagnon, you're absolutely correct. That's one of the many pieces of information that should be brought forward in a study committee like this.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Representative Wheeler, a student of history. We can't have too many students of history, in my opinion.
No, we cannot.
As a history
We need
teacher.
more.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr.
we do
Chairman.
have a finite amount of time, as always, but we have at least a couple survivors from that ship and who have traveled some distance and have taken some time, so I definitely want to make sure that we give them some time. We don't have unlimited time, but we want very much to hear from them. We heard from, had this measure a year ago, or last term, and spent a great deal of time on it. So we're already, those of us who've been on the committee, already fairly familiar with the incident. The question is whether or not we want to do a committee. But I'd like to, is Tom Lewin here? Tom, you were here last term, I believe, right?
Pardon me, sir?
You were here last term when we took this up, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Welcome back, and thank you for your service. And please share with us what you can share. Tom traveled here from Auburn, Maine.
Thank you. My name is Tom Holden. I was in the supply department. I was a ship's barber, and I ran the ship's store at the same time. I'm going to give you what happened to me when I was there. My duty on the ship would during an attack or any time of being threatened was to go to DC Central, which is Damage Control Central. And in Damage Control Central, we would answer the phone calls from different departments. Mine was from the bridge. Anything the captain wanted, he would give it to his messenger. The messenger had a direct line to me, and we would talk, and we would dispatch whatever he wanted. We had also, there was 3 of us in this little 8x8 room, and I'll start off by going during that afternoon on a nice clear day. We were being observed by the Israel planes. One flew so close to us on the side of the ship that I could see that the pilot was smiling at us and waving. And we waved back at him, and he took off, and he waved his wings. Then lunch was over, or our break was over, and I went into to open up the barber shop, and 2 guys were already waiting for me. We got in there, and the first guy, I called him Posty, he was a post office manager. He got in a chair, and Smitty, he sat down, and we just started talking, and the first scream came. Excuse me. The bullets, when it hit the ship, it came down and you could feel the whole ship. Okay, I'm okay. You could feel the whole ship rattling, and we didn't know what it was. And after the rattles, I heard screams. I didn't know what the hell is going on. Then all of a sudden, it's a general alarm. The home starts ringing, man your battle stations, man your battle stations. So we all start taking off. And all 3 of us start heading towards the hatch. Goes out from my little shop, which just had a hallway across it, and there was a hatch, and there was a stairway. And Smitty went out the door first, and he went left. Posty went out second, and he went right. And I could take the stairway. And before the stairway, I looked out the door. I saw the plane banking straighten out, and I started firing. You could see the sparks from the wings, and he was firing at Smitty. I knew it. I knew he was going to get him. Then I looked at that plane again, and I thought the pilot saw me. So I turned and ran to the stairs, and I dove. And as I'm dove, my room was lighting up. And luckily, my body was underneath the stairway. Down below me, there was some men waiting to come upstairs, but they didn't say a word. They just walked. I'm sorry, this is my first time, but I'm able to say this. I made it down the stairs and ran through the galley. And through the galley, I got into the hallway and into my area, my damage controls area. Damage control room is 8 by 8. It's a small room. Like I said, it's a small room, and I got in. I think I might have been first, and then Steve Gershak was the second, and then Lieutenant. We all showed up. We started talking. We were going down phones, and we started talking. And each time the planes were coming, they were making a figure 8 over the top of our ship. And when those bullets would come, you think you're in a barrel. And it was loud, very loud. I'm still bringing my ears from it. This went on just several times. The plane would go one way and then the other way, and this rattle would come down. The ship would vibrate, and you could feel it, and you could feel it tilt. And the screams after just about every damn one of them. We got going, and I'll look at my notes for a minute here. Kind of cool me down. They did about 8 swipes apiece, those planes. And in those 8 swipes, they wiped out all of the antennas, all the gunners. There's 4 gunners. Posty was cut in half. He got hit by a 40 caliber, 40 millimeter cannon. Nobody lived through that. Smitty was hit through the butt with a 50 caliber machine gun on her route going. No, Smitty was later, but Posty never made it that time. I felt tremendous pressure from those bullets, and it became silent when the planes were empty. And I talked to Virgil. He was telling me what was taking place, and we dispatched to those areas. And then he said, "There's 2 big planes coming. 2 big planes coming." And all of a sudden, they dropped a napalm, very hot fire bombs. One of them hit right over our deck, right there. We were 1 floor below the deck, right against the bridge, so we were exposed. And one of the bombs landed either directly on us or right next to us. The room that Saddam Hawkins left, we'd have to get out. But we had dispatched the fire crew, and the fire crew knocked it down quick enough to keep us inside. After the napalm bombs went by, and they did a lot more damage. I wish I could make pictures of the ship, but I did not. I'm sorry. After that bombing.
Mr. Mullen, I first of all, I want to thank you for having the courage to relive what is clearly a horrific, painful experience. And of course, thank you for your service as always. I think we're all extremely captivated by living through this with you. We have a finite amount of time, and I want to give one or two other folks a chance to also have some time.
I'll make it short.
And would you take maybe one question? If yeah, well, please finish and maybe take a question. But I also want to give a couple other folks a chance to weigh in. So please continue.
Okay. All right. The PT boats come, and it's time for them. They sent 3 torpedoes at us, and we avoided them. The captain could steer that ship pretty well. He knew how to handle it really good. And then the other guys, they sent 2 more torpedoes at us. The last one had gone right straight at us, and they said, "Man, prepare for impact." When it hit, we all got thrown all over the place. Everything was dark. We were screaming at each other because our ears were twice. We were only 70 feet from the blast. They asked to repel boarders. Not repel boarders. They asked to prepare to abandon ship. So the guys started getting the life rafts over. When the life rafts went over, Israel shot up the life rafts. Then they picked one of the life rafts up in the boat, I'm told. And they thought they recognized the USS Liberty. That's what they told us, that I was told anyway. That hole was 20 by 40. It's a large hole. It went right up. The ship was leading at the time, and we were about 4 feet off the water. Those three PT boats, I'll call them PT boats, then took the machine guns after they took care of the rafts, run around the boat, fired the machine guns with armor-piercing bullets, and put holes, 50 caliber holes, all the way around the boat. Although they want us sick, they don't want us alive. They left when they were empty. And then when they were empty, a few minutes later, 3 helicopters were coming after us. 3 helicopters were armed with commanders in there, and they're ready to take the rest of us out. During the blast, we were unaware of it, but Virgil told me, he said, "You guys are trapped in that room, you can't get out." So we had signed repel orders. When they said repel orders, that means we go grab our guns and we can fight by handguns off the ship. Well, they didn't plan on the armor being cut in half and losing the only man with the key to get to the weapons. We were going to, we were all, we knew we were dead then. Then the pilot, one of the helicopters came to the bridge, and Virgil was telling me everything was going on. He said the helicopter came real close, and they took a mic and they said, "Can we help you?" So that meant that word got out, and somebody knew that Israel was attacking our ship. The captain gave him the finger, and they turned around and took off. And
Again,
that's my story of that. Can I tell you one more thing?
sure.
2 days later, Admiral Kidd came on the boat. And he'd been from that in front of us, we all got around him. He takes his bars off his collar, and he said he commended us for being such strong men. There's only about 70 of us guys left. Everybody else is going in the helicopters and gone, right? We had loaded up 174 wounded, and 34 men were dead. We're all left on the ship. He took those officers and he commanded us. He thought we did a wonderful job. And then he asked for a few comments, he got them, then he puts his guys back on, and he said, no, I'm gonna tell you guys, if you ever say one word to your friend or your family or anybody to each other, I'll put you in jail and you ain't ever gonna come out. And he repeated that a couple of times and took off.
And this is from Admiral Kidd.
That's what happened. I have been angry at that son of a bitch ever since. He destroyed my faith in this government.
Well, I think that we get that, and again, I've already thanked you once, so thank you again for your very compelling and brave testimony here. The one question that I did want to ask you, and you can probably answer it yes or no, do you think the federal government was engaged in a major cover-up that still needs attention?
There's no doubt, there's no question in my mind.
I'll take that as a yes.
That's a yes.
Anyone else have any questions? Representative Foss.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming here and for your bravery. In your perfect world, I suppose, what do you want the federal government to do if this committee does find that the investigation was, I suppose at the very least, inadequate? What is it that that just personally, because I know you can't speak for all survivors, what is your ideal outcome?
My outcome is to have them apologize each and every one of us. It's and not make a mistake like that again with somebody else.
Other questions? Representative Mandelbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to echo my fellow members of the committee and thanking you for your powerful testimony and your bravery on that day. What would it mean to you if the state were to form such a committee?
I'm sorry, you have to speak up.
Yeah, in your own words, what would it mean to you if the state were to form this committee?
What would it mean to me? It would make me feel like the door is opening. We're trying to get some answers.
Other questions? Representative Lamb.
Sir, thank you for my question. Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate your service sincerely. In your opinion, since you were there and had a first-hand account, do you agree that the outcome of the investigations that the federal government did, in your personal experience there, do you believe they were Israeli aircraft, or are you saying that it may have been a different state actor?
The first two planes who went by were not marked, but the boats were marked. They had flags on them saying that they were from Israel. They were flagged. They had the Israel flags on them.
Thank you.
Seeing no other hands, Representative Rollins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. As a Gold Star pilot, I understand the pain and what you guys are going through. Okay, I've lost my son in Iraq. I had closure. I'm asking you, have you people had closure yet on this issue?
Opinions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Thank you very much. I have three more cards. Catherine Peters has asked for 4 minutes. Jason Garrett has asked for 3 minutes. We do have a schedule that we're obviously going to be somewhat flexible with. I do want to give Mike LeMay some time. Is he here? Right there. I don't want to have any time limit on him because he's come from Florida, and I think Mr. LeMay is a survivor. I'm pretty sure of the Liberty. So please tell us what you'd like us to hear.
First of all, I want to thank Tom. This is the first time he's ever talked openly about what he saw. Okay, we didn't go through the horrors that Tom went through. I was hit on the first strafing. I do want to say that it was an incredibly beautiful day. The ocean was like a river. And my biggest problem now is nobody's ever asked me officially what I saw or what happened that day. And they accepted I made a mistake. I didn't know it was a U.S. ship. Okay? The day was beautiful. I saw one of the fighters. It was an unmarked French Mirage jet, I'm told. He was flying the same way we were, and he wasn't even 60 feet above us. I could have waved to the pilot that day, he could have waved back. That's how close he was. And I was still going up to the 04 level. That's the highest deck you could be on the ship outside. And it was just the full width of the ship, but maybe 15 feet in size. And I turned to the officer up there that's supposed to identify all the planes that go by, and I said, "Did you see that fighter, sir?" And he said, "No." "Where is it?" And I walked closer to him and turned to point to the fighter that I saw. And that's when the first strafe happened. It came by, and like Tom explained, the ship shook like crazy, and I looked down and there was blood coming out of every part of my body. And I looked at the lieutenant, and he looked just like me. And I said, "Hey, I'm getting the F out of here." And I ran, hit the ladder, just like you see in the movies. I slid down, didn't touch a rung, got inside the 03 level, inside the ship. And there was glass everywhere. And I didn't realize it, but my knee had been shattered. And I fell to the deck and crawled down another deck inside the ship. At that point, one of my shipmates, and this is comical, how crazy the mind works, I was crawling around the corner going into officers' country, and he goes, "Are you hurt?" And I honestly looked up to this shipmate of mine and says, "No, I like crawling on the deck." And we both laughed. I mean, I can't get over that. I even could do that. But we did laugh. But anyhow, he threw a tourniquet on my leg and went to get help to bring me down to sick bay. And I don't know how long it took him to get there. But I know I did black out a number of times before he got back. And they threw a tourniquet on my leg, they put me in a stretcher and started carrying me down to the sick bay. As we're turning the corner, the corpsman came by and told him to take the tourniquet off his leg. We didn't want him to lose it. And with that, they put me on the deck, and he starts untying it, and a rocket comes through the overhead. Now, I'm 2 decks inside the ship, and I can see blue sky, and the only time you ever saw a cloud was a little white cloud on that hole where the rocket had come through. Then I blanked out, and I woke up in sick bay, which was the mess decks. They converted all the tables into beds and put mattresses on. And I can remember passing out, waking up, and one time I woke up, prepare for a torpedo attack. I remember hearing that. I don't remember the torpedo hit. I do remember hearing, "Prepare to abandon ship." And I don't know if I blacked out anymore or not, but I do remember them canceling the abandoned ship. And later on, I had heard what Tom had told you. They were sinking the life rafts as they threw them over the side. So I'm assuming the captain thought we were safer to stay on the ship as long as it didn't sink than to try and go over the side. Again, it was a beautiful day. There's no way that plane did not know we were an American ship. On the bow, we had a letter G, 10 feet tall. GR5, General Research Technical Vessel is what we were on. It was a spy ship. It was controlled, I'm told, by the NSA. And unfortunately, where the torpedo hit, it was the only place that the torpedo could hit us without sinking us. Within 6 inches, either way or the other, the ship would have split in half and we would have hauled down. No questions in my mind. You brought up a number of things that I wanted to make comments on. I did not have Admiral Kidd tell me what he told my shipmates, but every one of my shipmates have said the same thing. I have never, ever once been officially asked by any government what I saw that day. And to me, if you're doing an investigation, every crew member has to be questioned. Now, Admiral Kidd took a bunch of them all together and asked them a question, and they answered, and then they were sworn not to talk about it for the rest of their lives. From what I understand, the admiral that did the commissioned people on board the ship swore them to secrecy till the day he died. And he died 15 years later, and that's when the assault of the Liberty came out. And that's when they started talking about it. And I think we just figured we could too. So we started talking. Myself, I went from the Liberty to the USS America, an aircraft carrier. That's where they saved my life. I was on there for about 2 months. They shipped me to Naples, Italy. They put us on the top floor so they could control anybody that could come up and ask us questions. I was in Naples when they tried to take out some of the shrapnel on me. I had 4 cardiac arrests while they were doing that. So the doctor said, we'll leave them in. If you ever have problems, we'll take them out when you have problems. I still have 52 pieces of shrapnel in me. I went from Naples, Italy to the Army Hospital in Germany. When I got to the Germany hospital, they put me in a ward where there had to be 15 Vietnam veterans from the Vietnam War injured. I wasn't there 3 minutes. They picked me up, put me on the gurney, brought me to a private room, and some officer came in and says, your name is Smith, and if anyone asks you about the Liberty, you know nothing. Now, me being a dumb 23-year-old kid, I figured while I was in the hospital, that's the only time I had to be quiet. I didn't get the threat that Tom and the crew that didn't get injured had. The crew was only 294 men. That's all we had. 174 were wounded. 34 were dead. These few guys saved my life. I'm sorry. It never stops. My problem is the United States believed Israel that it was a mistake. The ship they claimed that was the ship that was shelling the beach, and we can't shell the beach with 50 caliber guns, was half the size, wasn't even seaworthy. It was an animal, a cow ship that they shipped cows or cattle or something on. The Liberty was an immaculate ship. It was no way you could make a mistake that it was anything other than a U.S. vessel. The captain was the biggest pain in the butt that anyone could be because he followed the book. Going from Norfolk to Africa, which was our normal duty station, if I went out without a hat on, I'd have been put on report. If I didn't salute an officer, I'd have been put on report. This is how ridiculous the captain was. We had general quarter drills, which is to practice for attacks, 2-3 times a week. I can remember thinking to myself, this guy's crazy. He's too much of this alone. Thank God he did it. The only reason I'm alive today is because he trained everybody to do the right thing. I was the electrical department. I was in charge of the electricity for the ship. My duty station was the generator. One of the most important parts you can have when you're in a battle. You have to have electricity to keep the ship running. I was hit on the first strike hit. But my crew knew how to act and keep that ship going because we were trained so well by our captain. You mentioned that the captain got the Medal of Honor. Yes, but they insulted us. He got it from the Secretary of the Navy in the Naval Shipyard. And any other time anyone got the Medal of Honor, they got it at the White House from the President of the United States. Then he deserved the Medal of Honor. The doctor was seriously injured and kept us all alive. He deserved probably the Medal of Honor too for not letting anybody that got into that room except one person die. Everyone else survived. And the lieutenant commander that died stayed away too long. But by the time he got there, nobody could save him.
Mr. Lemay, thank you so much. I want to make sure you understand there are more people listening and will listen to your testimony than are in this room. And this is being recorded and is being watched by many folks, and many more will be watching it, will be on YouTube forever. Mm-hmm. So please know that you're being heard. Would you take a question or two?
I'll take any question you want to ask.
The same question, I'm going to repeat the same question I asked your predecessor. I think I know the answer. Do you think that the federal government covered up a serious situation here?
Yes, no doubt in my mind.
I figured that would be your answer. That's kind of why we're here. Representative Foss.
Thank you, sir, and thank you as well for coming to speak here today. And side note, I am really pleased to see how you and your fellow survivors are supporting each other still. I'm also going to ask the same question. What do you want from the federal government? What's your ideal outcome?
For me not to feel like they think I'm a liar. I want the truth. What I saw, what I told you that day, if you want me, I will take an oath to tell you that I'm telling you the truth. I'm not afraid to do any of that. The truth, that they intentionally attacked us knowing we were a U.S. vessel. Our Commander-in-Chief, President Johnson, 2 times called planes that were coming to our aid, wouldn't allow them come to our aid. When we were on our way into the Mediterranean, now normally our duty station was the west coast of Africa. We spent 3 months going up and down the west coast of Africa in the spy section of the ship, I'm assuming listened to what was going on the beach. And we were in Abidjan at the time of the 6-day war started, and then we were ordered to go into the Mediterranean. Now I've been told that the captain asked for a destroyer escort because we only had 450 caliber guns. We should have never been in that war zone without an escort. The admiral told the captain that he can have airstrike help within 12 minutes anywhere in the Mediterranean. So the captain accepted that as, okay, we'll be okay. Now, like Tom mentioned, first of all, they jammed all our frequencies that call out emergency. Even though the equipment was working, we couldn't get anything else for Mayday. But we did somehow get one Mayday out because the USS America and the USS Saratoga sent planes to our aid. And with that, and again, I'll only tell you what Commander Lewis told me. He was really hurt bad when the attack happened, and he went on a frigate or a destroyer. I don't know what ship. It wasn't the America. And he met with the admiral, so I'm assuming it was the flagship. And the admiral told him that he called the U.S. and told him that he was sending planes to help the Liberty. And he told us that McNamara called the planes back.
McNamara being the Secretary of Defense. God bless you, and God bless the folks the medical people who did what they did back in 1967. I think we need to remember them as well. I know you came a long way, and as I said, a lot of people beyond this room are hearing and will hear your words. I want to get to the last two folks. Representative Gagg, you have a question?
Only I can defer if the other 2 are also for service members on the ship. Otherwise, I'd like to ask the ship.
The last 2 speakers that I have cards for were not on the ship, so go ahead, Representative Gagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, sir, for taking my question. I'm a Navy guy too, Navy guy, and I was there in that area about a year before you guys got hit.
Oh, wow.
Now, my understanding is, if I hear your testimony right, that your duty station was off the west coast of Africa.
Now, normal duty.
I was involved in that. I was a tin can sailor, the NOAA that picked up John Glenn in '62. And when we went on these recovery missions, that's where we were stationed, up and down the west coast of Florida. Okay, now I see that you're Crow and were you a second class electrician?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry if I'm going off the deep end, but this is so important to me. I am pro-Israel. Okay, your incident and what's happening now are 2 different pies, right? What happened to you guys, my reading here and listening to the, I think, 1.5 hour thing for Candace Owens, I think was her
Yes,
name.
right.
And, you know, and what scares me a little bit is I understand everything that you're talking about, going down the ladders, all that stuff. Now, now let's go back to off the coast. Do you know for a fact that you were in international waters?
Only because they told me where we were.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you how far.
And when the Israeli jets came on and started their action, where you said you were on the 04 there?
Yes,
That's topside, right?
correct.
Is that around the signal bridge
It's
over the
above,
pilot
it's
house?
above it.
It's
Yeah.
above the pilot house, is that
Correct.
correct?
Two decks above the
I
pilot.
was a signalman.
Okay.
Did you notice that day if we had the American flag flying?
I can't tell you that I looked up and saw it.
Okay, before then, when
But-
you were
oh
on the
yeah, I've
way
seen
and
it
other
many
times,
times. My belief on that,
Could you tell me approximately how big that flag was?
I would assume about the size of that flag there. Pretty much a standard one. It was a regular flag, not the holiday one yet. Yeah,
Probably a
whatever that
5x7,
is. Yeah.
I think. I was a signalman, I was in charge of the bunting locker.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so,
Follow up?
thank you, sir, thank you for your, I really don't have much of anything else except that I think I would go after the then administration more. What gave the Israelis the authority or the freedom to do what they did? No, in my personal opinion, sir, if you agree with me or not, is that they had like a carte blanche to try to get us involved.
This is really probably executive session
Yes,
material.
I apologize to you, Mr.
And-
Chairman, I have no more questions.
And we need to let you go. Fair winds, following seas. Thank you for coming here. We're not done with this. And as I said before, God bless you. And I want to get to the last two cards.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Okay. On the second planes coming to our aid, now, I can tell you what I thought. The plane I saw was unmarked. It attacked us. I thought it was Egypt. And I believe the rest of the crew felt the same way I did. But again, Commander Lewis, talking to the Admiral had told him that Johnson turned back the second flight and said to him, "We will not embarrass our allies." So we're in the battle. The battle lasted 2 hours about. He knows Israel is attacking us. We don't. We think it's Egypt. We thought it was Egypt until, did the planes have the Star of David? The napalm?
Planes have napalm.
No, did they have the Star of David?
I don't think any of the planes.
But the torpedo boats that came, they had the Star of David. And my shipmates told me they were excited. We have help coming. Until they shot the torpedoes at us. And then for an hour, they circled the ship. Now, on the stern of the ship, we had GTR-5 on the port and starboard side. In between them, we had Liberty in English, the name of the ship. But for an hour, they kept going around, shooting at water level, trying to put holes in the side of the ship to sink it.
Understood? Understood. And again, should a committee be established, that is the type of thing that the committee would get into in detail. And if we had more time, I know we'd all love to hear more. I do want to get to Catherine Peterson, who's asked for 4 minutes. Catherine's here from Nashua. Welcome, Catherine.
Good morning, everybody. In the interest of time, I'm a New Hampshire native. My cousin was 18 from Nashua and joined the Navy and went right off to pick up these fine gentlemen when aid was finally allowed. Jim Makris, his whole life was affected. Same thing, wasn't allowed to tell anybody about the incident whatsoever. And I would like my state, I would like for you to find compassion in your hearts to let these 300 veterans finally speak the truth and come out from under their gag order. It's not fair.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Miss Catherine, or Miss,
She's,
yes.
my dad was also Navy many years.
My dad was in the Navy. The gag order, obviously has been lifted because these folks have, sounded off to us, and it's, on, the World Wide Web, it's on YouTube.
They're still courageous.
This, is testimony that, supplements what we heard last term. And thank you for stepping up and saying what you said. Would you take a question, or is there anything?
Absolutely.
Anything else that, any other point that you want us to make sure is heard?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Let Jason Gerhardt come up.
And the last card is Jason Gerhardt of Northfield. He was a state representative who initially brought this measure to this committee last term. He's asked for 3 minutes. Welcome back, former representative.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. I'd like to just kind of cover some things that I think were not clearly established previously. The fact of the matter is there are still documents being held by the federal government that are classified relating to this event. I'm referencing an antiwar.com article by Michelle Kanukin. She's awesome, and she's been fighting in court to get these documents released, unclassified, for years. And I just want to read a couple of paragraphs from this to kind of explain what's going on. In court, the government responded. This is a very recent, I believe it was last month or so, they ruled on this. It had sat for,
We're usually careful about reading other testimony, but if this, I'm sure this is relevant, so go ahead and read that, but
well, yeah,
you asked for 3 minutes.
Well, it's quoting the court's response to the reason why they wouldn't declassify these documents.
Okay, have at it.
Thank you. In court, the government responded in part by asserting that the release of many of these nearly 60-year-old records was properly denied because the information they contained, if disclosed, quote, could be expected to result in damage to the national security, which includes defense against transnational terrorism.
Israel.
To people like me, I'm just a carpenter. I did a little stint in the State House, but I left after one term. I find this to be completely comical. The idea that we have an incident from the late 60s that can't be released because it would cause transnational terrorism, I'm not too concerned about these men being terrorists. I mean, what are we worried about here? There's been a cover-up of such a massive degree that I think it's hard for us in this room to really kind of take it in unless you've been researching this, which to a very detailed degree, which I do not claim to have done. But these men lived it and others have. That we've gotten to the point now where the only recourse that we had is through the state government. Our federal government has set sail in a lot of ways, and they don't seem to be coming back to reality. There's a lot of entrenched interests that want to see certain things covered up, never see the light of day again. And I want to just close with establishing why this is the proper venue for establishing the truth of a historical incident, but one that affects us to this day. This is from the same article, but I just very quickly. Finally, New Hampshire and other states can and should act as part of a vigorous federalism. As James Madison observed in Federalist Number 45, under the U.S. Constitution, the states, quote, retain a very extensive portion of active sovereignty, and state governments may be regarded as constituent and essential parts of the federal government. As Madison elaborated in Federalist Number 51, the United States is not a single republic, but a compound republic, with power surrendered by the people, divided between two distinct governments. The division of power between the federal and state governments creates a double security to the rights of the people, such that the different governments will control each other. And it goes into a little more detail, but the basic point is that the reason we have committees in the state government is to research and do oversight on situations that need such research. In the federal government, the committees have it's an